Hello there. Once again, I'm Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise, once again reminding you that you can thank the Industrial Revolution for your favorite board game. Here's what I mean. As a result of the industrialization and urbanization of the United States of America in the early 19th century, members of the American working class suddenly obtained something that they had rarely possessed before: increased leisure time. And as a result, families began to look for activities that they could share during their growing amounts of spare time, and as a result, demand for children's board games slowly began to increase, especially ones that emphasized the wholesome Christian principles, morals, and values that their children certainly weren't learning down at the factory. And in answer to this growing demand, in 1843, Parker Brothers introduced what would be the second oldest board game ever published in the United States. A game called Mansions of Madness. What's this? This isn't about matches. Mansion of Happiness? What's Mansion of Happiness? Oh no. Board games throughout history. Yes, the Mansion of Happiness, based on the Puritan worldview that Christian virtue and good deeds were assurances of happiness and success in life. Nothing can go wrong with this. But yeah, apparently Puritanism was really big in the 1840s, as it not only influenced the game's theme, but even its mechanisms as well. For example, the game didn't use dice, or Satan's gambling utensils, as I assume everyone playing this game in 1843 probably called them. No, instead of dice, the game used a top-like component called a teetotum, whatever a teetotum is. Oh, neat. It's like an unholy result of a union between a top and a die. Disturbing. But at least you can spin it and not roll it, because priorities. Now, as for the game itself, the Mansion of Happiness is a simple game where players roll and move around players teetotum and move around a track of 60 spaces, dodging and weaving past spaces such as family-friendly locations like Audacity, Immodesty, Ingratitude, the Pillory, Ruin, and the Whipping Post. I think I'm starting to see why kids played outside a lot more often back then. And each one of these spaces introduced unique rules that combined edutainment with abject horror. In fact, a copy of the first edition rules was archived with the Library of Congress way back in 1843. So I can share these rules with you right now. So sit back and relax, but don't get too comfortable, because that's a temptation. Grab a refreshing glass of stagnant well water, kick off your undecorated buckle hat and shoes, and I will teach you how to play the Mansions of Happiness. To play the Mansion of Happiness, first piously roll the teetotum and move that many spaces. Then, do whatever that space says. That's pretty much it. Some of the exciting within reason adventures that players will have during their journey to the Mansion of Happiness include: whoever arrives at the inn space pays 1 token for a refreshment and continues on to space number 12. Alright. Whoever possesses piety, honesty, temperance, gratitude, prudence, truth, chastity, sincerity, humility, industry, charity, humanity, or generosity is entitled to advance 6 entire spaces towards the Mansion of Happiness. Whoever possesses audacity, cruelty, immodesty, or ingratitude must return to their former station until their next turn, during which time they must not even think about happiness, much less partake of it. Actual rule. Whoever gets in a passion must be taken to the water for a ducking to cool him and pay a fine of 1. Okay. Whoever is confined to the prison must stay there until either their allotted time has expired, or another person guilty of the same crime is also sent there, because that's totally how the justice system works. Whoever becomes a perjurer must first pay a fine and then be put into a pillory, which I'm not sure is part of the game or is referencing something in real life. Whoever becomes a Sabbath breaker must be taken to the whipping post, pays a fine, and is then, according to the rules, whipped. Fun! And whoever arrives at the Mansion of Happiness first wins the game. Unless they throw over the number of spaces they need to get to it, in which case they go to the Seat of Expectation and spin again on their next turn. Unless they spin over the number of spaces they need again on their next turn, in which case they start the game over. Which sure may sound harsh, but does present the opportunity for additional whipping. Now, all of those rules taken by themselves would certainly be enough to make the Mansion of Happiness a perfectly serviceable game. But there is one more rule, and it is this rule, this amazing rule number 16, that demonstrates why Mansion of Happiness was a late 18th century game that moms love and kids crave. And now, Rule 16. When two persons come together, the last player must take possession of the place he comes to and pay one for so doing. The other person must return to the place from whence he came and not pay one, except first when two come together and the last player is found guilty of an offense. He, after having paid his fine, must take the place of the former without paying more. The other person must advance or return, if not a cheat or robber, see Rule 10 or 13, to the original place of the last player and not pay any. Secondly, yes, there is more. Secondly, when two come together at the house of correction or prison and one is confined for a crime, in that case, as the last player cannot relieve the person confined, he must return to the place whence he came and spin again. And should he spin as before, well, then now he must remain as he was. Wow, I really have no idea what's going on there, but I'm pretty sure that it's describing how a top and a die come together to make a teetotum. And so there you have it. You now know how to play the Mansion of Happiness. My apologies. However, as bizarre as this game may seem on the surface, its popularity during America's seminal period of newfound leisure time most certainly helped drive demand for the next board game after this, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and so on and so forth, until modern times, where we've come a long, long way since the Mansion of Happiness, with games that are developed a lot better and designed much better and offer an infinite number of decisions to make. So go ahead and mock the Mansion of Happiness if you have to. Just don't do it on Space 25, because that's a temptation and you'll lose a turn and be sent to the Summit of Dissipation. But more importantly, don't do it, because without this game helping pave the way for American game publishers, modern tabletop games and activities may have evolved into something much different than the hobby that we actually know and love today. And that would be the real sin. Whoever is confined in the prison cannot leave until either their allotted time expires or another person guilty of the same crime is also sent there, because that's totally how the justice system works. Justice system? The Justin Bieber system! The Justin Bieber system! It works.